What is up, everybody? This is the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and this is episode 102. We have another Coffee Talk Friday, so it's also Black Friday. So a couple things real quick. One, we have a Black Friday freebie. No, we're not. Everybody's trying to sell stuff for Black Friday, so Alex and I decided we're not selling you guys anything. So check down below. There's going to be something for free. Cost you $0. It'll be delivered to your inbox. So it's a nutrition guide, a workout program, and a mindset guide to help you with all three components. If you've been following the podcast for a while now, you know that mindset is just as important as the other two when it comes to creating long-term change. In fact, most of today's podcast is going to be talking mostly mindset with a little bit of nutrition and fitness. Actually, that's most episodes. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll realize it's mostly mindset. That's why you haven't been consistent or why you've been struggling. It usually comes down to mindset and dealing with those things, not macros. Like macros don't solve anything. They get you results if you follow them, but the long-term results that we all want, it comes down to more like mindset and consistency. So down below, there's a link. Click it. It's free. You just have to plug in your email address and then it will be delivered to your inbox. You don't have to buy anything. Our Black Friday to you is the 5-finger discount. There's no buying. It is absolutely free. So hopefully that helps you out if you've been like, oh, what do I, trying to find a deal or wondering what we're doing. We're doing free. That's it, guys. Anyways, so today's Coffee Talk Friday is post-Thanksgiving. It's talking about what not to do after a holiday. So you might have been with family and they're talking about their diets because that's what a lot of people like to talk about around the dinner table. If you're avoiding religion and politics, it's diets, the latest diet, keto, carnivore, plant-based. The new thing floating around is like this oxalate thing. I don't know if it's just an algorithm, but I'm seeing all this shit about oxalates now, which you don't need to be worried about unless you have a genetic issue with them, which you would know you have a genetic issue. So I'm seeing that's something that's common, workout programs, but usually it's more about diet and weight loss or detoxes and getting the weight off quick. So after the holiday, you might have eaten a little much. What you don't want to do today is weigh yourself. And maybe it's too late. You already did. Here's the thing. When we eat foods we're not used to, or a lot of food, say you've been dieting for a while, and if you didn't listen to Monday's podcast, I would recommend going back to that after you're done this one. But after you're done eating a lot of food, a lot of carbs, you're going to retain water. Probably have more sodium and more carbs than you have for a while yesterday. Guess what all those things do? They make you retain water. So if you're up a few pounds today or a lot of pounds, sometimes I put on like 10 pounds, it's mostly water. So you have to think of things logically and not emotionally after we go through a very happy time. So we don't want to ride this wave of like, oh, I'm restrict, binge, super happy with the binge. And then that dopamine comes down and then all of a sudden you get blue and almost like mildly depressed. And you're like, oh my God, what did I do? I need to do something drastic. Like you wouldn't do that necessarily with anything else in your life. Like, oh, I'm trying to think of it. I didn't write down an example for this because I literally just thought of it, but you wouldn't do that with other things in your life, or you shouldn't do that with other things in your life. Like you wouldn't be like, okay, I got a $500 bonus, so I'm going to go, and that's just wasn't expecting it or was expecting it. Like I got a $500 bonus. We don't have the savings for it, but I'm going to get this $2,000 thing. Like, okay, like you got 500, you can't even pay the whole thing off. But that's what a lot of times we do with our diets. Like, okay, well, I ate one bad or a high calorie, or however you want to label it. I don't recommend bad, but you kind of get the gist when I say that. You wouldn't just turn around and you shouldn't just turn around and do something super restrictive. Instead, what you want to do is just get back to your normal program. You don't need to do anything special because for your body to put on body fat, you need to eat in excess, not just eat in general. You need to eat in excess 3,500 calories, which is above your maintenance. So 3,500 calories above your maintenance to put on 1 pound of body fat. And that doesn't include your body taking some of those calories and storing them as carbohydrates, as glycogen, which will cause you to retain water weight. And from Monday's podcast, you'll know them. If you're in the dieting phase, your glycogen stores, your carbohydrate stores, are usually not maxed out. Your liver will store about 100 grams of carbs there, and it kind of needs to be replaced every single day. Your brain is going to burn through about 50 grams of carbs minimum, sometimes more. And then your muscles will store anywhere between 3 to, if you've been working out for a while, upwards towards like 800 grams of carbs. Think about that. 800 grams if you have a good amount of muscle mass. Now, the average person, if you're like, well, I don't have a ton of muscle, I've just started working out, like, okay, still 300 grams of carbs. And that gets burned up every time you work out. So if you've been working out, you've been in a dieting phase, your stores are never maxed out. So all of a sudden, you might notice today that you have some bloating. You might also notice that if you're semi-lean, like your veins are popping out a little bit. And that's from carbs and retaining that water. And that's fine. Guess what? Your workouts are going to be fucking awesome because you're actually fueled up. So instead of being like, oh no, I messed up so much. Or if you're getting people messaging you, like, don't fall into this logic of, oh no, I messed up so much. Fuck that shit. Fuck that. Turn around and you're going to go right into getting back into your workouts and stuff. Now, if you're celebrating Black Friday, like, this might be like a whole weekend thing. So for me, for example, Pennsylvania rifle season opens up tomorrow. So I'm going from Thanksgiving. We're traveling today on Black Friday, 9 in the morning, midday, when all the Black Friday shoppers need a nap. And we're going out to Gettysburg and then hunting. So I'm not going to be really working out there. But Monday, it's going to be back on track. So it's not like there's a ton of stuff that, like, you don't need anything special. You don't need to do a detox. You don't need to do anything. Your body will handle it just fine. So even if you ate a ridiculous amount of calories, chances are you didn't put on that much body fat. And if you get back on track, you're going to get whatever body fat you might have put on, which is probably minimal at best. You're going to take that right off. Again, think of it logically, not emotionally. Yes, maybe you did eat more food than before and you're like, oh, I must have eaten 10,000 calories. But go onto YouTube and look up like a 10,000 calorie challenge. Good fucking luck eating that. Like, you're not eating turkey and stuffing. And even though some of the things like pies and maybe mashed potatoes are high calorie, like, if you see what people are eating on those challenges, like, it's like pizza and lots of calories from, well, it's food. So it's usually not liquid calories, but it's like multiple pizzas and other foods that are hyper processed. It's not turkey. And even if you did eat somehow 10,000 calories, like, you probably feel like crap today and you're probably like, I'm never doing that again. Until next year, next Thanksgiving. Anyways, think logically, not emotionally. Look at the day. Like, did you really eat that much? Or was it one meal plus some dessert that you ate a ton and then you ate light the rest of the day? And chances are with Thanksgiving, you're eating veggies and some other things. Everyone Thanksgiving is different. We always have veggies and stuff. Some people don't, but if you're watching what you eat, you're probably not eating just carbs. You're like, I will feel better if I eat some veggies. So I'm going to eat some veggies. So, again, think logically, not emotionally. So look at yesterday. Now, moving forward, probably don't want to make an emotional decision. This goes for any time. Most people are reactive. They see the scale go up. They're like, I need to do something now. And I need to do something drastic to get this off now. Rather than thinking logically like, hey, like, my weight might be up because we got Chinese takeout. Or it was Thanksgiving yesterday. Or I had a few too many beers over the weekend and my body's rebounding because I was dehydrated. I drank a bunch of alcohol and then I hydrated myself and my body just overcompensated. I'm holding on to a little water weight. It's, I need a detox. I need to do this. I need to cut all carbs. I need to cut all sugar. Like, when you're talking in absolutes like that, you're destined to fail because it's, I need to do something drastic, which will be a complete overhaul of my entire lifestyle rather than gradual overhaul. We're just going to go cold turkey, flip on a dime, and probably fail in a week or two. And then one be like, see, I can't lose weight. Diets don't work for me. I can't, I must have something going on with my hormones or my metabolism is broken. It's not. It's not. So when it comes to the holidays, because congratulations, Thanksgiving's done. Guess what? We still have Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate in December, whether that's Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, etc. Maybe you don't celebrate any of them, but chances are you're probably celebrating at least one of those. So, or where I live, people do the, I forget the Hanukkah Christmas term, Christmanica or whatever, but there's a lot of mixed families where one spouse is Jewish, one is Christian, and they do both. So you have a lot of those things coming up. A lot of holidays coming up. So are you going to do something drastic again? Because then right after that, you have New Year's. And even though we don't do a ton of New Year's, generally there's alcohol involved. Sometimes there's a party, sometimes not. It just depends on what you're doing. We usually stay in, well, actually we're traveling this year for New Year's. But then after that, you're like, oh, I'm in the clear, but don't forget Super Bowl. Even if you don't watch football. Like, I don't watch football, but usually I watch Super Bowl, or we go to a Super Bowl party. It's like one of the few games a year that I actually watch. Unless my dad's around, like I'll watch football with my dad, but I don't turn it on myself. So all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, I didn't think of that. Technically that's a holiday. A lot of people have a lot of a lot of food, like wings and chips and dip, pizza, tacos, those kind of foods around, and you're like, oh no, I suck. I can't manage myself around all this food. I can't say no to everything like you're not supposed to. So we want to, take a look at yesterday. What went well, what didn't? What went well for you in the holiday? How do you feel today? What didn't go well? Hey, I found that I couldn't stop eating X. Or, hey, this was a big mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Like, take note of those things. Now you know for the next holiday or maybe next year what to do, what not to do. And maybe it won't even be an issue next year. But you should take note of what happened and what went well, what didn't, what should change, what should you repeat. What can you take? What's the lesson you can take from yesterday and apply it to the next holiday or next year? So for me, one thing is don't eat a full serving of all the desserts. You can just taste something. So when I was like a preteen, it was always a thing of try not to eat too much all day long so you can just gorge yourself on Thanksgiving, which is what a lot of people do. But then it was also like had to taste everything. But I had like a legit serving of everything, including the desserts. And with my grandparents and my parents, like there were like 4 pies. I don't know if usually there's not cake, but there is at least 4 pies. There's cookies. There's other things available. And I actually legit got sick. My stomach just felt off. I went to use the bathroom, nothing there. And then all of a sudden I just like threw up everywhere. So my lesson is like, you can just taste. You can just have a bite of something and be okay with it. Because honestly, like I wasn't really enjoying it by the end. It was just like out of pride of like, this is what you do for Thanksgiving. So you must do this. And it really, you don't need to do that. So that was a turning point for me. It still brought up. Another time was I almost fell asleep at the table. Like you don't need to eat to that point. You don't need to. You can just eat till you're satisfied. And that's with me no longer in-person training. A couple years ago, my mom's like, you didn't eat that much. I'm like, I had 2 plates. She's like, but you always have like 4 plates for Thanksgiving. I'm like, yeah, like I'm I'm satisfied. I'm good. We're going to have dessert a little bit. Like, I don't need to eat anymore and feel like crap. Also, we were hosting, so there's cleanup and everything else. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. So over the time, you learn more about yourself and develop strategies around each holiday. And you can do that, look at yesterday. If this is your first time doing that, look at yesterday. What went well? What didn't? And you just think logically, what should you do moving forward? It's literally just get back on track. Like, okay, like holiday's over, get back on track. That's how you want to think. It's not, oh, we're going to drag this out. Oh, I need a special program that continues to overhaul my lifestyle and my diet and what my family eats for the next couple of days. And then by the time Wednesday comes around next week, all of our like eating schedules and all the foods we eat, it's all discombobulated. Like, just get back on track. Like, you probably have leftovers. Just get back on track. Just eat less. Like, well, mashed potatoes really aren't diet friendly. No, just eat less of them or give them to your kids. Combine that with another, like if that's your carb for the meal, which is a carb fat source with a cream, milk, or butter that's used when you make yours, just combine it with another carb source like bread, which is usually just carbs. So smaller serving of potatoes with carb. And that's how you think logically, like how can I make this work? What can I do to make this work with my diet? When it comes to like your leftovers, what workout program should I punish myself? No, what you should do, you should never punish yourself with exercise. What you should do instead be like, hey, like I ate a ton of food. Once this bloat goes down, you might not feel like working out today, but in a couple days, like Monday's workout's gonna be fucking fire. Like I'm gonna be carved up. I'm going to be ready to go. And you're not going to deprive yourself over the weekend. You're just going to be back to your normal diet. I'm going to be on fire on Monday. And you probably will, as long as you don't get like sick or you're not like continuing to get bloated all weekend long. Like you're probably going to have an amazing workout on Monday because you're going to be really carved up. And that's awesome. So instead of looking at it as punishment, you're like, hey, like Monday's probably going to be a good workout. Like I have filled up my fuel reserves for the first time in a while. Like we're going to go. And we're going to push it a little bit more than usual and just see what I can do. It's a very different way of looking at things than what most people do, than what probably the conversations you had yesterday were about of like, oh, I'm going to get back on keto in the new year, or in the new year, I do low carb, or I cut out all of these foods, or did you listen to the, you don't need to participate in that. And people don't like that because most people view exercise and diet as punishment. So most of the time, I said this on Monday's podcast, most of the time, they're not going to understand when you come at it at a different place of where like, no, this is just how I eat. No, this is just how I like to work. I like to work out. I like challenging myself. I like not feeling miserable and bloated all the time. I like just eating well and working out and doing those things. I don't need a special weight loss thing. Because you'll hear, oh, in the new year, I'll start working out. Like, why not now? Why not tomorrow? Well, and they never have like a good answer other than it's too busy. And I say it all the time. When someone says they're too busy, they're probably not. They just have a time management issue, because actually busy people will actually break down how, like, what's going on. Like, hey, like, no, I can't do that because of ... Like, hey, well, why can't you work out 3 days a week? Oh, it's just too crazy right now with the holidays. Is it really? Like, what are you doing day to day that's super crazy? Because the Christmas shopping is mostly online. Like, you can just order from Amazon. You can, and even if you go out, when are you going out? Like, probably the weekends. So, what's happening Monday through, like, Thursday? You can get 2 days, 3 days a week of working out in, but people will be like, oh, well, and they never have a great... I'm all or nothing. Like I have to do 5 days or 6 days a week, or I'm not doing it at all. It's like, that's toxic. That is a terrible mindset, and it's setting yourself up for failure. Like, if that's you, one, start changing that. But if you hear that, that's like, wow, you have a lot of work. You're going to need some help because you're not going to reach your goal, or you're going to lose weight really quick. And next year at the same time, it's going to come piling back on. Because we'll see that in January of people will be like, I'm working out 6 days a week. Then they either get burnt out, sick, or injured, or a combination of those three things in, say, March, late February, March, and then all of a sudden they fall off, and then it's like the same conversation year after year after year. And if you're having those same conversations, like you're going to the Thanksgiving dinner table and you're having the same conversations year after year after year, it's like, okay, I need to not do what these people are doing. Like, even if they're family and you love them, like, that's one thing, but you don't have to repeat that mistake that they're repeating every single year. Because if they're not moving forward with their goals, then they're just staying stuck, and that is not someone you want to take advice from. When it comes to that situation, if they're like brilliant with money, take the advice. Like, oh, well, my uncle's an investment banker. Great, take investment advice. You know what you don't do? He's slowly gained weight every single year. He loses 20 pounds every year, but he gains 25 each year. Don't take health and weight loss advice from him. Probably don't want to do that. Or maybe they're a teacher and they can tell you early childhood development stuff, and you have a new baby, but they know nothing about nutrition and probably shouldn't take advice from them. I'm not saying I'm the only person you should take nutrition advice from. I'm not. You should always get multiple sources of information, but you should seek it out from experts, not from just random people. So there was so the reason I say this is recently I heard that someone, my wife's side of the family, said that he doesn't believe that exercise helps your heart. It's like, wait, what? And I've seen this online, actually. So someone's logic, because this is the logic. They come through it with very superficial, and it's like 5-year-old logic, like 1 + 1 = 2. But with the body, it's always like an algebra equation. I don't know if I said this on Monday's podcast or not, but I'm going to say it now. Came out with someone's comment I saw was, well, you only have so many beats with your heart. So if you speed up your heart rate, you're just burning through all those beats. So exercise is actually bad for you. It's like, whoa. So the beats you have during exercise, you're forgetting that outside of exercise, people who exercise have slower heart rates. So let's say if you don't exercise, your resting heart rate's 90 beats per minute. If you work out all the time, like, it should be way under 80. Like, it should be more like 60. And marathon runners and other endurance athletes can get, it's like closer to 40 as a resting heart rate. So yes, you might be 120, 30, 50, 180 beats per minute when working out for that hour, 1 hour. But then outside that, you might be having 50 less beats per minute, or 30 less beats per minute than someone who doesn't work out. Not including all the other benefits with exercise. But that's just one, when it comes to the heart, it was like, where did this information come from? It's just like, well, my grandpa who did this said this, or they never had. So it's very like 5-year-old reasoning. And we also have to take a look at it, because you might have heard this yesterday. You have to look at also, like, if you have someone who's older who's saying these things, you have to look at their generation. And chances are they're pulling from someone else who had my grandpa never had heart issues, and he lived till he never worked out, and he lived till he was 85. But he was a farmer. It's like, well, look, dude, like, he was a farmer, and he was active every single day. You work in an office on a computer for 9 hours a day. And then you go home and you sit more. So he was active literally all day long. And grandma was a stay-at-home mom who was doing the laundry and cleaning the house and cooking dinner and was active all day long. You fill out Excel spreadsheets and can't even get 5,000 steps per day. Grandpa was getting 20,000 steps per day. You're getting 5. It's very different. And you have to think about it that way too. This is why if we look at Europeans, sometimes they're like, why do Americans work out so much? Or why can't you just like walk more? It's like, well, they have very walkable cities. Or people would be like, oh, well, Europeans don't work out, so Americans shouldn't. It was like, well, what are your steps? Because the average European's getting over 10,000 steps per day. If you live in New York City, a lot of times you see that actually New York City is one of the few places where you don't see a ton of obese people. You'll see overweight, but you don't see as many obese people because there's so much walking, because it's easier to walk than drive anywhere. And it's a very walkable city. But if you look around where I live, town, I've used this example a few times. Town's only like a mile away, but it's not walkable. Like you can, but you're taking your life in your hands every single time, hoping that the drivers are paying attention because there's some blind turns and narrow roads, and better hope there's no trucks coming two ways because you're getting run off the road if you're walking or anything. So you have to look at it like that as well, where you can't just be like, okay, well, because of past things, this is how it is. No, you can't. I think on Joe Rogan, there's something where it's like, if you think about if the average person, say the average person lives till, what is the average lifespan? Like 75 or something? Like, do the math. Like, if you go back just 5 generations of your family, like you have mom, you have grandma, but look at your like great grandpa, you're in like the 1850s. Like we're in 2023, and there's been a ton of changes just in the 1900s, but especially in the past, since like the 80s and the 90s with technology just booming. If you can't pull reasoning from like, oh, past generation, like your current generation is very different than the past generation, the past couple. Because you just go back a handful of generations, 1850s. Well, if you're older and your family's living a long time, like if someone who's 100 right now, they were born in 1923, which means their grandparents, if they're 100 right now, their grandparents could have been in the late 1700s. It's wild to think about that, but there's a potential that, hey, like maybe not their grandparents, but their great-great-grandparents might be, or their early 1800s. Like, okay, so they're 100. They were born in 1923. Let's say their parents were 23 at the time. So that puts them at, 1800 even, their grandparents. Like, yeah, okay, I'm using like current, I'm doing the same thing. I'm using current, thinking like 100-year spans. But if you do go, like, it wasn't that long ago, like within your family's timeline, it wasn't that long ago that you're pulling, like older generations are pulling information from times that don't apply to today. Times where people were more active, where meat and potatoes with a very active lifestyle, fried meat, like chicken fried steak and stuff like that, plus eating just potatoes and not really eating veggies. Well, if you're super active and eating a ton, that's fine. But if you're not super active, then guess what? You're going to pile on the weight. That's not good. That's not good. But yeah, there are plenty of people who are fine with like a quote unquote not healthy diet. It's like, yeah, but look at their activity level. You need to look at that. That plays a role. Anyways, I think I've veered off a bunch and we're way over time, but I think I've veered off a ton from the original thing of like looking at yesterday, Thanksgiving. But it's important to say this stuff when you're having conversations with people and you're getting these conflicting things and you use simple logic when it comes to your diet, because the human body basic diet is simple, but when it comes to some of the other processes in your body, it's not that simple. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It is a algebra or a calculus equation when it comes to some of the more advanced processes, which is why when you are getting information, you should look at actual experts who go over these things, who talk to you about different subjects. Myself being one, but you should look at other ones as well, because some things aren't that simple. For example, some people will just be like, well, I'm just going to work out every single day, but they don't never take into equation recovery. Or what kind of workouts are you doing? Or what intensity of working out? What level? Are you doing a beginner program, or are you jumping right into an advanced program? Well, the advanced program is going to fry you. You're not going to be able to do it. So you just need to look at things. You take some of that advice, but then actually look into it. So never react emotionally. Always act with logic. That's not to say that you can't feel your emotions. Absolutely feel those emotions, get them out of the way. But before you make a decision, look at it logically. It will help. One, it will help you reach your goals faster, and it's going to save you a buttload of money, because I've wasted way too much money doing emotional things, buying supplements or programs or other things based on emotion and not logic. It has this great promise. It's like, whoa, man, let's actually look into it and look logically, and not have the bias of like, I'm only going to look into things that confirm that this will do X. Like, let's look at all the data. Let's see. It doesn't. Anyways, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, drop down below if you're like, okay, I need some real info that is actually going to get me results. We have a Black Friday deal down below. Check it out. Free program, workout program, free nutrition program, free mindset guide to help you with your goals going into the new year. Right now, into the new year. And again, if this is something that's important to you and you're not doing anything right now, you should absolutely start taking action. And that can be just going for walks. It doesn't need to be working out like, oh, I just need to get motivated. Well, the only way you get motivated is actually fucking doing something, making a plan. Nothing is more motivating than like, okay, I got everything laid out. I'm ready to go. If you're like, I'm just going to wait for a spark of motivation to hit, that spark of motivation is probably going to be something negative, like, fuck, I can't fit in my pants, or fuck, the scale went up how much? Fuck, I need to do something now. And that's emotional and not logical. Yes, motivation's an emotion that comes and goes, but what's a better emotion is like, you know what? This is important. I need to do this. I know I need to make this change. So let me make a quick plan, just a quick plan. You don't need to spend days researching. Anyone who's saying like, I'm doing my research on something. Once I figure it out, like, bullshit, want to know how you actually take action? You take action, not emotional action, but you only need a couple hours of research to actually start. And when it comes to diet and exercise, you don't need a ton of research. You just need to eat more protein, eat more veggies, decrease the other refined foods in your life, and start moving more. Start with that. That's where you start. And once that starts going, you're going to be more motivated to actually make other changes. Like, okay, if I can do this, what more can I do? Like, what other food should I eat more of? Which will push out the foods you probably shouldn't be eating more of. What's more that I can do with exercise? Well, we can add in weight training. Maybe we add in some cardio. But I know weights are good, so I'm going to add in weights twice a week. And then that might turn into 3 days a week or 4 days a week. And we'll go from there. Now, obviously, there's a limit with weight training. We don't want to be doing weight 6 days a week for the average person because you can't recover from it. But that's down below. So if you're like, okay, got a little bit of motivation, but I don't want to spend all that time researching, we already did it for you. So it's down below for free. Just enter your email and you will get the programs for free. Anyways, I hope you had an amazing holiday. Happy Black Friday and enjoy your weekend.